Hey you, do you want to make paper squishies like this? Yeah! But you can't find your tape? Or even worse, you don't even have tape. Okay, seriously, we all have those days. Well, don't fret, because today I'm going to try out several ways to make paper squishies without tape and using materials we can commonly find at home. For the first method, I'm going to need some paper, preferably dark paper, but really any kind is fine, stapler, and some stuffing. Oh, and I guess some coloring supply, but actually I want to use this opportunity to put my stickers in use, in particular this little hedgehog. Last thing I'm going to grab is scissors. First, I'm peeling the backing off my sticker and wow, that was frustrating, but more so embarrassing. Well, what matters is that we have our peeled sticker, and I'm going to stick that onto our paper, and then I'm cutting enough paper to make a paper squishy. Fold that in half, and now to seal the edges, I'm going to use a stapler to do the trick. I thought this would be easy, but man, these mistakes are just tragic. But we can overlook our mistakes by just going along with the process. We're looking at the big picture here anyways. Now, I left a little gap at the end because this is where I'm going to insert my polyfill. Make sure to fill the squishy up so that it's all poofy. Now I'm going back in and stapling any leftover gaps that I possibly missed, because believe me, I missed a lot. Once that's done, we can finally staple in the gap where we inserted our stuffing, and we're not done yet. You see how much these staples kind of stick out of the paper? I chose black paper so that I can fill in the staples with a black pen so that the staples can blend in with the paper. Although this pen didn't do much, I decided to grab my trusty Sharpie instead to finish the job. I know I can always count on Sharpie for its black ink, but I mean it's really not that comparable to that dollar store black marker I used first. Sharpie supremacy. Okay, let's let that dry real quick. And here's our first no tape paper squishy. This turned out much better than I expected. And we're going to ignore the staples, but I really liked how this turned out. But shall we move on to the second method? For this second method, I'm going to grab a clear plastic bag, some polyfill, which you're actually going to need this time, some tissue, which can be classified as paper, so technically this is a paper squishy, a small rubber band, you're going to need 2 of these, and some color supplies. Before we begin, I'm separating the layers of the tissue. Why, you may ask? I have no clue, but I did it anyways. I'm wrapping my polyfill with the tissue and tying the ugly top with the rubber band to secure the tissue in place. And here's our knockoff marshmallow. Next, I'm taking my coloring supplies and coloring my tissue with my design, which by the way will be a little tomato. I highly recommend using markers or fabric paint because colored pencils, obviously the color won't apply onto the tissue well. Man, I wish I colored this better, but whatever. Let's take our green marker and color in the stem and leaves like you would see on a tomato in real life that's freshly picked. Although our drawings are looking kind of bland, so I'm gonna take my white marker to add in those highlights, just to give our tomato a little bit more dimension. This is what I have so far, not too bad. We're going to let this dry, and oh my poop, why do I always stain my table? I didn't expect it to work, but hooray, the stain is gone. Okay, now that our squishy tomato is dry, I'm going to open my plastic bag and wrap my tomato inside very tightly, leaving a large amount of plastic bag hanging on the bottom. I'm taking my second rubber band, tying a knot on the end of the plastic bag. I really wish that I cut some plastic bag excess off because events like this can happen. Thank goodness the rubber band didn't snap on my hand because that would have hurt. It's okay though, I have another rubber band in hand. That rhymes. And yeah, not today. No more rubber bands are snapping in this household. There we go. That made the rubber band wrapping process so much easier. Make sure to wrap that on real tight so that there's little air where the paper squishy is. Oof, that is squishy. Oh yeah, that's satisfying. And last step, let's cut the remaining plastic bag excess with some scissors. And it looks like some of these colors have faded, so I'm going to fill in those areas again on top of the plastic bag with my colored markers. Ew, that looks worse than when you did it the first time. And then going back in with the highlights using my white marker. Now, we can let this dry for the very last time. And here's our second no tape paper squishy. I really admire how airy and slow rising it is. It's really a sensation that you have to experience for yourself. It's majestic. Let's move on and try out the third and final method. So far, you've seen that we can seal a paper squishy using staples. But this time, we're going to try something a little bit different. This time, I'm taking some liquid school glue, and we take some time to just appreciate how cool clear liquid glue is. Appreciate it, or we can't be friends. If you want to try glue sticks, that's fine. But from my experience in my primary academia years, just say elementary school, liquid glue binds paper much better than glue sticks. So yeah, we're gonna stick to liquid glue. And don't forget your coloring supplies as well. Not now, we'll use this later. Let's take our paper first and fold it in half. Next, I'm grabbing my glue, unscrewing the top, and with it, I'm going to glue most of the edges, leaving a small gap unglued. Squeeze it out. Why is the glue not coming out? Maybe a good shake will do the trick? There we go, that's how glue should run. Not much is more satisfying than a constant flow of glue. Once we have our glued paper, again including a side that is unglued, we're going to fold our paper onto itself on the glue side. Press that on real nice. Yes, real nice. And once that's done, we're going to let this dry completely. Now I know this might be a little bit hard to see with my white background, so let's change that real quick. There. Hopefully that's better. Next, with a pencil, I'm drawing on my wonderful design. You know, I think this is a perfect time to talk about a comment I saw under one of my videos. This person asked, how do I deal with losing motivation to do art? First off, I think this is such a common thing to experience, and I had to think about this for a while before coming up with an answer, because I too do have moments in my life where I could not bring myself to do art. I almost felt guilty for not doing art during those times because it has been a hobby I've had for a long time, and giving it up didn't feel right to me. But over time, I realized that you don't have to let go of art entirely, even if you make it unmotivated at times. So don't beat yourself up just because you stopped doing art for a while. It's okay to let yourself have a break. In fact, doing so can help you recharge your creative juices, and once you feel ready, you'll just naturally pick up where you left off. Oh god, that looks wrinkly. Let's cover that up with a white pen. On this empty space, I'm writing a very fitting message that totally matches what this bird is doing. You agree, right? Anyways, I'm now taking some scrap paper and cutting them up into little strips to use as stuffing. It was a little bit of an annoying process, not gonna lie, cutting all those thin strips of paper only for it to not be visible in the end product. I'm okay. I'm fine. Doing the same for the yellow strip. Not strip, I meant piece of paper. I'm going crazy. And midway into the paper strip scrunching process, I gave up trying to be precise and just grabbed a pile of paper strips, demolished it with my hands, and just called it a day. So I think we have enough paper strips. You can leave now, red paper. Okay, now I want to briefly talk about the issue that is of polyfill. As you can see, polyfill is made up of these little fibers that look like string, and combining many of these strings will give you polyfill. Now, if you want to use paper as your stuffing and you want your squishy to be squishy, cut your paper strips as thin as you can so that when you combine them, it is fairly easy to squish and mold them around, as opposed to if you cut your strips wide, then combining multiple wide strips won't give you a very squishy result. So thin strips is the way to go with paper if you don't have polyfill. So next I'm opening up the unglued gap and I'm stuffing the squishy with paper strips, which by the way, paper filling is a lot easier to work with than polyfill because polyfill loves to stick out its little fibers. It wasn't full enough, so I had to bring in my red paper after all. Don't you just love moments like these where you thought you had everything right, but turns out you were so wrong that nothing feels right anymore? Okay, that's a little bit dramatic. Let's get our liquid glue and seal the edge off. Press the paper together and then clamping the paper with a binder clip and leaving that to dry. So that's dry, but unfortunately another side decided to undo itself, so I'm gluing that part, clamping it, and leaving it to dry again. So here's our final paper squishy. Look at how squishy it is. Okay, jokes aside, it's not the squishiest paper squishy, but it is crunchy and crispy. So here are our 3 no-tape paper squishies. I love how every squishy has a different type of feel to it. But that's all I have for you guys today. If you enjoyed this video, please give this video a like and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Meepyblues out.